Back with the next in the Fanzine Friday series, and today it's Illusionist Vision number 2 from 1978. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer, and this is our channel, Old School Rules, where we celebrate the community of old school gamers and grognards who like classic RPGs, miniatures, magazines, and everything that goes with it. Each week on the Fanzine Friday series, I take a fanzine from my collection off the shelf for a closer look, and this week that's Illusionist Vision number 2 from the summer of 1978. We hope you enjoyed the video. So we're back this week on Fanzine Friday, continuing our look at Illusionist Vision. A couple of weeks ago, we started off with Illusionist Vision number 1. Then I took a break for like an interlude to look at the last issue of Underworld Oracle, and now we're back this week with Illusionist Vision number 2 from July-August 1978. Illusionist Vision is put together by Mike Ferguson with help from Gavin Denton, and the art is done by Michael Watts. So speaking of art, let's take a look at the cover. Here is the cover art by Michael Watts. I'm going to blow that up for you guys. You see that we've got this magic user, I assume, who's riding a broom, and he's shooting some type of a fireball, I think, out at this multi-headed dragon, or maybe it's a flying hydra. There's several more of them in the background. You look down here, there's a guy who's getting hit with a breath weapon, probably fire. He looks like he's in flames and falling. I'm not sure where he came from. But anyway, like Michael Watts' art, it's very, takes me back to the early days of D&D. Next we have the editorial by Mike, and this time he talks about some thanks to TSR, which he forgot to do in the first one, and also mentions that people wrote in to tell him that he was not nearly as alone in that part of England as he thought he was in terms of D&D players at the time. Apologizes, this is a frequent theme. He apologizes. It took him a little longer than he wanted to get the next issue out, but he promises he's going to get that sped up as they move forward. But does indicate he's had several letters, submissions, and things like that have caused the size of the fanzine to grow this time around, as well as some feedback on his new character class called the Mountabonian. I think people were saying, look, Moorcock's concept is not exactly what you have going on here, plus Elric, the most famous one, wasn't as described, but what he said was really, we used that term, but his vision was trying to create an anti-paladin, and so he acknowledges it's not what Elric was, and some of the things he may have done were a little different from what was in the books, but anyway, he says that's kind of the intent. So let's take a look at the table of contents. He doesn't provide one, so I've got one for you. We have the editorial, some fiction, a concept of klutzing, which is causing magic user spells to backfire, the Monster March, new monsters, Moite Hall, I think I'm saying that correctly, is the new adventure, the Mage's Sack, which are new magic items, Branching Out, which is just a little bit of commentary on some other things that they might do beyond this fanzine, and he goes into his competitions. We mentioned last time he had a couple of competitions, the new sort of describe the new monster competition and the best dungeon master competition. Contributors Mike Ferguson and Gavin Denton put this together. All the art, I think, this time is by Michael Watts. And then Trevor Graver, Mark Barracliff, and Brian Hinstock all had new monsters that are submitted, and we'll cover those here in just a minute. So klutzing. He has a little article at the beginning talking about how he had this monster he really liked, but then the magic user used a fireball, and as you know, many magic user spells hit without any chance of mistake or error, and they can't miss no matter how good the armor class. And so he was frustrated by that. I don't know if that's fair or not. I mean, the magic user is supposed to be kind of balanced by being such a weak melee and early level character, but he didn't like it, and so he's come up with this idea called klutzing, where there's a chance that your magic user's spell will backfire. That you roll basically every time you cast a spell, or at least an attack spell, you're going to roll and see if it backfires. And it can totally backfire, which means its effects come back on the magic user. It can partially backfire, meaning part hits the intended target, part hits the party. It can completely fuzz out and just not work. And then can have normal effect or no saving throws allowed. And so that's his idea. And then he's got this chart here where he's got the effects level of the magic user, and you roll percentile dice to sort of see what happens. Everybody's playing around with different ideas for magic users. I'd say without a doubt it seems like the thing that draws the most frequent attention from people's sort of homebrew rules. I think this is kind of interesting. I probably wouldn't use it in my own campaign, but I understand where it's coming from, and I think insofar as that's your concept, I think this one is actually pretty well done. He makes magic a much sort of more chaotic part of the game where its effects are much less likely to be certain. If you're going to use this, I think maybe in fairness you might balance it out by giving the magic user more spells, especially lower levels, since it's no longer, his spells no longer have certainty. There's such a chance for things to go wrong. Could actually be a lot of fun. In 2E they came up with this idea later on towards the end of called wild magic, which is similar, where the spells could have, so you could have sort of random consequences to your spells. Okay, so the Monster March. You can never have too many monsters, right? So we've got 4 this time. The first one is the Hompy, a 6-inch tall little winged gremlin that tends to feed off of dead creatures, but says if it interacts with the party, it's very hard to see, and it usually gets an attack by surprise, +3 to hit. If it bites you, its bite will anesthetize you. And then you'll pass out, and then it just gets on you and starts trying to feed, and its bite, of course, is continuing to keep you incapacitated. So not particularly strong with a party around you, but somebody got off by themselves. These things could be pretty deadly. The next one is called the Jinx. The first one's by Trevor Graver. This next one's by Mark Barracliff. I like the Jinx a lot. It's sort of clever. It's like a doppelganger, so it'll assume some type of a humanoid form and try just to sort of hang out with the party. The problem is he looks harmless enough and helpful enough, but the Jinx is jinxed, and so it says encourages the dungeon master to have random bad things happen. Backpack strap will break, belt will break, and your guy's stuff falls off, or armor falls off when a leather strap breaks. Just constantly having little small bad things happen. All the way up through, like I said, armor breaking, weapons breaking even. If you do attack the Jinx, he will instantly, his defense is to teleport and take 1 to 4 party members with him into just some random, location outside or other room in a dungeon. And then if you actually attack him to the point of almost killing him, then he can get off a curse on a player before he dies, and then you can sort of make up the effects of the curse, so that's kind of good. The Turlock. The next 2 by Mike Ferguson, the editor of the magazine. So the Turlock, again, I really like this one. There's a little weird shaped drawing at the top. It says it's an energy being that thrives on death, and so he will either follow the party around at a distance so you can't really notice he's there, or he'll be around a powerful monster that's in the dungeon, and he feeds off the energy that's released at death, is what I say. And so the good thing is he gives everybody bonuses to hit and damage in order to encourage things to get hurt and die, so he can feed off of them. But of course the bad thing is he's over there sucking up the life force, and that's kind of a chaotic evil thing for someone to be doing. Also, because he wants this, any encounters are much more likely to go bad and result in combat when he's around. Dispel magic will cause it to go away. Normally you're not going to see him. Detect magic will help you find him. Dispel magic will cause him to sort of leave you and stop following you around. The next one is called the Grome. I think that's right, Grome, and it's a huge, odd looking human with 4 arms, created by an alchemist who was incapacitated, and so he created this guy sort of to do things for him. And it says, but one of the things that he would do, because this creator was not a particularly good person, is go collect people and things. But when he collects people to come and become more servants or for other nefarious purposes, he will track you. And it says, other than flying or teleporting, this guy is basically 100% likely to be able to continue to track you any distance. He plods along. You might get ahead of him on a horse or whatever, but he just keeps coming. If you're his target, when he touches you, he has a paralyzing touch, because then you're paralyzed. He throws you over his shoulder, and then he takes you back. Not particularly resistant, armor class -2, so that's pretty tough, 30 to 50 hit points. So this thing's pretty fearsome opponent, but again, it's just gonna, it's sort of a unique use thing where it's tracking a particular party member, right? Okay, so here's our adventure, Moite Hall. So here's the hall. There's a wilderness map here as well, and then we've got our adventure here. It's by Mike Ferguson. It's pretty well done. I think it's about 6-8 pages long. So I like this one quite a bit. It'd be a lot of fun for your folks to play through. So the hall was founded 200 years ago as a gift to the local emperor, and it's near this nearby village. Some barbarians had come in and broken up the area, but the hall continues to survive. As the years go by, it falls into disrepair and sort of becomes overgrown. But in the last year, these rumors have appeared, and that there's some type of walking dead there, and villagers have begun to disappear. Players, plug your ears. So there's a Lord of Chaos called Zormbarg, who's recovered from a defeat by a famous paladin once upon a time. He's trying to regain control of several planes of existence, and has a connection here with a powerful sorcerer, and that's the root of the evil inside of the hall today. So, pretty typical concepts, and I think, pretty well done adventure. All right, so now we have our magical items, which again, I think are pretty good stuff. This is called the Mage's Sack. I didn't give credit for these because at the beginning. Don Turnbill has the Sword of Infidelity. Anyone can use this sword, but unless you do a remove curse, then the sword will leave the hand of anyone on a successful attack and go to someone else, going to basically to another owner. The Shield of Missile Reflection. Normal shield, no particular bonuses, but any missile fired at the owner of the shield will reflect back and go back towards the attacker. The Variable Shield looks like a normal shield, but it's +3. But it says then random things happen during combat. It can be a +3. The bonus for the +3 actually can be transferred to the armor of the character. It can be transferred to the weapon the person is using, or it can become negative. So that's I sort of like these things, or random effects, magical items. The Ring of Immobility, also by Don Turnbull. This looks like a ring of protection and acts as such, but if you try to do any type of movement such as teleport, dimension door, etc., it automatically fails and you'll take some sort of shocking type of damage. The Ring of Invulnerability also looks like a +1 ring, but when you're struck by a blow, you become immobilized. And they say, we called this the Ring of Immobility, then we got Don Turnbull's ring, so we changed it. So you become completely immobile, but also immune from all attacks for 10 turns, or 10 melee turns. And every time you get hit, it just extends how long you remain stuck, but also invulnerable. And then if you cast Dispel Magic, it will remove the sort of curse part of the ring, but also makes it no longer function at all. So it essentially just completely fries out the magic item. So that's kind of an interesting one. Then we have the Staff of the Phantasmagoria, illusionist equivalent of the magic user's Staff of Power and Wizardry. Has a number of effects: Phantasmal Force, Detect Invisible, Striking, Continual Light, Fear, Paralyzation, and Detect Magic. And then it says there are a number of other staffs of similar nature. The Staff of Gorgor, as above, but it has invisibility, 10-foot radius, minor creation, motions, paralysis, cure paralysis, blindness, confusion. So just some different effects. Staff of Keo the Wise, shadows, summon shadow, chaos, shadow monsters, so sort of some shadow theme. The Staff of Hal the Great, petrification, fireballs, lightning bolts, legend lore, and alter reality. Staff of Will the Mighty, fireballs, lightning bolts, blink like a blink dog, charm person, and disintegrate. And has 150 charges, which seems like probably a little too many. The Encyclopedia of Useful Knowledge. And this book opens to the page whatever it is you're interested in learning about, and then has a chance as to how much knowledge will be there for whatever question you might have, right? 75% general, 50% more specific, 5% very detailed to tell you like basically anything you would want to know about whatever it was that you happen to be curious about. So it's a sort of interesting magic item to throw in there. The Encyclopedia of Useless Information looks like the prior one, but all the information in there is going to be incorrect, right? So sort of fun way to mislead the party. And finally, the Librum of Bestial Ferocity, which causes, if you have a berserker, and I don't know how he reads this book, but he does, it increases the chance of him going berserk, and also gives him increased +1 to hit and damage whenever he goes berserk, and improves all of his abilities that have a percentage chance by 5%. So that could be fun. All right. Here's the artwork by Michael Watts. He's just got a drawing of a guy's head on a spike next to a sword. And then it's not really clear what's going on here. There's a guy in the front. There's this wizard. And then there's the guy at the far end. It looks like the guy in the front, I guess, has got his head getting ripped off. So that seems a little violent. And here's just a warrior with, I don't know if that's an axe maybe in his hand, turning around at you. Okay, this is from the prior issue, number 1. And I was a little confused, but now I understand what's going on. So I mentioned to you in the last issue, and again this issue, they have a Stat the Monster competition. So this was the monster from the last okay, so I mentioned to you I showed you this art in the last issue, and I now know they have this competition called Stat the Monster competition. This is the monster to stat from issue number 1. All right, so they had a competition. This time they have the winner, and this is Miss Mary Patterson is the chosen winner. She made up stats for this creature and called it the Pernicon, an insectoid 2 inches long. What if it's supposed to be feet or 20 feet? I don't know. 2 inches doesn't seem long. It lives in the desert, and people like it because of the antenna are water diviners. So in the desert, they could be used to help you find a source of water, right? If it attacks, it leaps on you from its hind legs, sort of jumping like a grasshopper, and bites you with its little pincers. And once it gets in, it sucks the water out of you, out of the human or the elf dwarf, whatever, right? And sucks the water out, pouring against your constitution, as well as doing some hit point damage. So I like it. It's a swarm creature, 300 to 3,000. She stats it at, with 1/2 hit dice a piece. So that's pretty fun. Now here is the monster they're asking you to stat in issue number 2. We'll talk about this one in the next one. I sort of think this one's like a cross between a gibbering mouther and a otieg or something. I don't know. We'll see what people come up with next time. Looks like it has some eyes and like a little beaky mouth, and then these tentacle-like arms on there. But I like the drawing nonetheless. They also have the competition to stat the monster, and they announced last time a competition for Dungeon Master of the Year, and they say in here they haven't really gotten the feedback on that one they were hoping for, so they're encouraging people to participate in be the Dungeon Master of the Year competition. I also wanted to share with you here, the back page is just announcing they're having a D&D convention locally that Illusionist Vision is sponsoring. So again, just some flavor about the type of things people were trying to do back in the day. So that's it for Illusionist Vision number 2, and next week we'll continue this one and finish it out with Illusionist Vision number 3. Hope you're enjoying this series. If you're not already, I'd ask you to subscribe. We put out content once or twice a week, and please share with any friends who like this old school goodness. We'd love to have more subscribers, more people watching our videos and giving us feedback on the comments down below. Hope you guys are having a great week. Have a great weekend, and until next time, my friends, keep rolling 20s.